Since this is the introduction, which referring to the first lessons of the class, there are some basic understanding about this test that I'm supposed to relay to the studies or the students who are ever trying to master these lessons. First, you see the IELTS reading module or sections comprise of 3 paragraphs. And as we all do realize that the first paragraph is usually the easiest one. And up to the last one is probably the most demanding and the most challenging one, which takes a longer of the time for you to focus and concentrate. Okay, so continue for here. For which you will get a total of 60 minutes to complete, which referring to being given 1 hour to finish 3 paragraphs. And then you will get an average of 20 minutes to finish each article. And you will be able to see here that I say advice not to spend more than 20. But nonetheless, that I have given you a column saying 18, which means if it is allowed or if this is viable, I would suggest you to use 18 minutes if you are a very professional test taker or you have been sit for, let's say, IELTS about 2 or 3 times, you know how it goes, right? It will be 18 minutes. If you are just for the general beginner of IELTS test, 20 minutes is good enough. Okay. This section has 40 questions with each question carrying 1 point. So make no mistakes, especially regarding to your writing. It should be very clear with capitals. If it is not capitals, then the small letters should fit into every single questions if it is closed. No negative marks. So you won't be able to get any points deducted if you're not answering it correctly. The 2 skills we've mentioned several different times is about skimming and scanning. We've mentioned about skimming and scanning. To skim is to read a text rapidly. It means you have to read it very fast. So you don't really have the time to slowly enjoy the article as you usually do when you are doing leisure time activities like reading a magazine that you enjoy. You have to get a general overview. So that's skim, right? And to know the main theme or the main idea behind the passage is something very important. It takes time to practice, but it will get better. The proficiency level will increase. And then you got scanning, is to read the text rapidly to find specific information, such as figures. And we do all know that figures means data, something to do with numbers or something that is related to the statistics. So that's something you should focus on. Names, for examples, name of a scientist or any researchers or historians or probably someone who are famous in history, or a name of an organization, etc. Right. Moving on to the next section, so you do get high band if you're aiming for in reading. You just have to repeat the process. The process up to here takes about 6 different stages, but I would suggest that if you can remember it, it will be spontaneously implant into you. The first is to skim. Means you read the article very fast and you get a general idea about what it talks about. Right. The second part here is to read the question and then identify the type of questions it might be. For example, if it is a true, false, not given, it usually goes with a sequence, which means question 1 goes into para 1. And then question 2 goes right after the answer where you locate the first questions, right? So here it says, identify the type of questions. These questions falls under a question type. There's an elaborated further down the page, which will be later on, don't worry. Read the question and identify which questions type to belong to. And number 3 is remember the technique, which means the skill behind the question type, which also will be related on the following lessons. Oh, by the way, I haven't got any chance to ask about, but just give me about 10 seconds. So far, if you are having any problems with whole language lessons, please say you have problems with whole language, you don't understand the complete English lesson, say yes in the chat column. No? Okay, so then I will continue. Proceed. Quiet under Ian. A very cute answer. Quiet. Q-U-I-E-T. Quiet, understand? Do you mean Q-U-I-T-E? Okay, good. Right, so I'll proceed. If you have any problems or if any questions, just drop me a line in the chat part. Right, I'm just gonna go back to the share screen. Okay, let's see. And then step 4 is to find the keywords, which is right exactly here. Each question will have a keyword that you should find out, or I will call it as an indicator. An indicator is a word that helps you find out what a word really means. For example, it could be in 3 different types for the indicators. The first type is paraphrasing. Paraphrasing means that they use the word with the same meaning but different wording. For example, they stop saying buy, they say purchase. They say hidden desire instead of saying subconscious. So you can often relate it to that. For example, you can have words like subconscious, but actually they say hidden thoughts. That means they try to use the same idea, but they change the word a bit. Okay. And then the second way you find the keywords is actually trying to find synonyms. Synonyms means words that have the same meaning, which means you have to enlarge and expand your glossary. The third part of that is antonym. Antonym. Right, so this antonym was referring to the words that have opposite meaning. So then you say that these are the key points where you will be able to locate keywords. Continue with the passage here. Each question will have a keyword that can be found somewhere in the passage. Discover this keyword and locate the keywords in the passage will help you a lot in reading and finding out the answers as soon as possible. Number 5, I believe you all know this very well. Read around the keywords. Now, the skill takes time here. It means you have to do contextual reading. You read the upper 2 or the lower 2 sentences and you read it carefully between the lines. That helps you to explain, to elaborate and locate the answers. So that's what you say. Once you've located the keywords, read around the keywords. Read a few sentences before and after the keywords to find the answers. Number 6 is to learn to guess the meaning. Know how to guess the meaning from the context given in the passage. When you read certain words that are paraphrasing, synonyms, or antonyms, you have to ring the bell in your mind, say ding dong, that's the words, or that's the place where I should look for the answers. Number 7 is to write the answers, so I wouldn't put too much stress on this part. Find the answers and write it down. Make sure you did not spell it. Following, let's see. The following part is a closed test referring to The Economist. Every single week, I'm going to design a small, tiny closed test that is related to the Economist article, because intensive reading and extensive reading is a large and important key point. We try to train yourself to read of all those articles that talks about ranges of topics. You couldn't limit yourself, or you couldn't confine yourself into a small range of ideas. You have to read widely. The first article or the publication that I would suggest you to read is The Economist. So here is the following parts. Now is the time for 2:24. I will say we'll start from 2:25. There is about a 5 minutes work time here. Okay. So the following part you see here is a closed test, and it offers you some options and below. Now we have 5 minutes. Please try to read and find the suitable answers accordingly and write it down on a paper. Start from question 1, C. We vote for policies, not for a party. And we do realize a party means a group of politicians who gather around and then have the same ethic or thoughts about how to rule and to, let's say, manage a country, right? Declares here. Jadamas Kamsasri, a housewife in a farming family in the village of Naikam. We aren't stupid. We watch the news on Facebook. The bespectacled matriarch, and blah, blah, blah. That was refined to ads. The first answer is C. Ads means advertisements and things like that you will be able to see that those things that are coming out and giving you a lot of information. So sometimes there are advertisements, or sometimes there are extra information that posted on the right-hand side of your Facebook. They offer you a lot of new information that you might have looked up or you might have searched before on your computer, right? And then the second, let's continue. This in itself may be news to those who assume that voters in Assam, a poor region in northwest Thailand, that is home to blah, blah, blah. Home to something means a group or a large group of population that belongs to a specific region. So then that you say the region is home to that particular, let's say, ethnic groups. So here it says roughly a third. Roughly means about, around, approximately. Right, so you say roughly a third of a country's 69 million people are blindly loyal to Thaksin Shinawatra, a former prime minister, blah, 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 in a coup in 2006. What is a coup? Tell me, ladies and gentlemen. Explain coup in English and type it in the chat column, please. You have 30 seconds. I'm going to stop the desktop sharing, and please find the answers and type